In today's video, I'm not going to do any upgrades. Instead, I want to talk about the water pump switch. There's a discussion in the Winnebago Revel forum, link down in the video description, about adding a third switch to turn on and off the water pump. That switch can be installed by the sink, so it is easily accessible where you need it. But really the question that is being asked is, how does it need to be wired? And in today's video, I want to explain that. The Revel already has two switches for the water pump. One is here on the one-place panel, and the other one is here in the garage area on the water panel. And maybe you haven't realized it yet, but you can turn on the pump with one switch and then turn it off with the other. And a third switch can be added into the mix, and then you can really turn the pump on and off from any of the switches. You can even add a fourth one, a fifth one. You can add as many as you like. And what makes all of this possible is the water pump control module, this little black box here with the 4 wires that is down there by the water pump. And because it is very awkward to film that control module in the position it is installed in the van, I built a replica so we can look at it here at my workbench. So this is the control module with its 4 pins. They are labeled switch, battery, ground, and pump. And I know because I also printed out the instructions. So you can see that here: switch, battery, ground, pump. And I also have a battery with the plus and the minus side. Red for plus, black for minus. And of course I have the water pump. It needs plus and minus. And if I connect plus and minus to plus and minus of the battery, without the control module, just a straight connection between the battery and the water pump, it will turn on, obviously. Now we have a complete circuit. And just to be clear, when I say the water pump is on, I don't mean it is on and pumping water. No, it is on in that standby state, and it will turn on and pump water whenever a faucet is open. When the water pump is off, what I mean is that it will not auto-sense water pressure differences, and it will never ever turn on. Okay, with that definition, let's introduce the control module. Let me disconnect the water pump from the battery. Move the battery out of the way, and we look at the control module. The negative, the ground side of the water pump, gets connected to the pump terminal. And then the positive side of the water pump, the plus side, gets connected to the battery terminal. And I'm using a splitter cable here. I'll tell you in a second why. Why? Because the battery's plus side also gets connected to the battery terminal. And then, last but not least, the ground side, the negative side from the battery, gets connected to the ground terminal. So it's maybe hard to see, but we don't have a complete circuit yet. So if we follow the red cable out of the battery, the plus side, it goes into the battery terminal, but at the same time, because this is a 3-way connection, it goes into the pump. It comes back out of the pump on the negative side, and it connects to the pump terminal. It is not a complete circuit yet because we do not have a connection between the pump terminal and the ground terminal. The ground is the one that feeds the negative side back into the battery. So as long as these two are not connected, the pump is not on. And here's where the magic happens. The 4th terminal labeled switch is, you might have guessed it, for the switch that can turn the pump on and off. When a cable is connected to this one, then every time this end of the cable is connected to ground, the control module internally changes the state. if there is no connection right now between ground and pump, the pump is off. If I connect just very briefly the switch wire to the ground terminal, then inside this module something changes and it connects the ground and the pump terminal. This is just a brief impulse. That's why the switches that are in the van are momentary switches. You just press them quickly and release them. That sends an impulse to the control module and it switches the state of the connection between the ground and the pump connector. Now, if those two are connected, we have a complete circuit from the battery into the water pump, then on the negative side out of the water pump to this terminal, over the internal connection to the ground terminal and back into the battery. This is a complete circuit and the water pump is on. The next time I'm connecting the switch wire briefly to the ground wire, it will turn off this connection. It will remove the connection between ground and pump, and now the pump is off. Now, in our van, ground exists in many places. In fact, every single white cable in the Winnebago Revel is a ground wire. So I don't really need to connect the yellow wire to the ground pin here on the control module to switch this internal switch. No, I can connect this trigger wire briefly to any of the existing white cables in the van. Anywhere in the van I find ground, I can connect this cable to briefly and that will switch over the connection between those two. And that's why I can have multiple switches, as many as I want. See, in this wiring diagram from Precision Circuits, you can see that right here. This is the switch pin. And all these different trigger switches, all they need to do is connect the yellow wire, in my example, to ground. It doesn't matter if it is done by this first switch, the second one, the third one, or however many you want to add. It doesn't matter. As long as one of them connects that trigger wire to ground for a brief moment, the internal circuitry will switch the connection to the opposite state. And that's why you can switch it to one state with one switch and then use another switch to send another trigger signal to switch it to the opposite state with as many switches as you like. Now, I'm sure you also want some sort of a control light that indicates whether the pump is on or off. And that is also very easy to add to this whole circuitry. So an LED will also have, or any light will also need a positive, a plus input, and a ground, a minus side. So all you have to do is wire the light in parallel with the water pump. So you would connect the positive side of the light to the battery terminal or to any wire that comes out of the battery terminal, and then the negative side, the minus side, you connect to the pump side, to the pump connector or the wire that comes out of the connector. Now the light, the control light and the pump are in parallel, so whenever the pump is on and receives power, the light is on and receives power. And then again, when the switch wire is triggered and this one changes to the opposite state and the pump no longer receives power, so does the light, and the light goes out. So I hope you can see this. Right, just wire the light in parallel with the pump. Plus side to the battery pin, negative side of the light to the pump pin. I put a link to the document from Precision Circuits down in the video description, so I hope that makes it clear if my video hasn't. In any case, that's all I had for today. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.